Man, what's up everybody? You already know who it is. It's White Boy Rick. We back at it again with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be speaking about a 13 and 15-year-old girl who are facing murder charges when a carjacking gone wrong and the Ubereats driver was murdered. Let's jump into it. Washington, D.C. Two teenage girls have been charged in the carjacking death of an Ubereats driver this week in Washington, D.C. Mohammed Anwar, 66, of Springfield, Virginia, was killed Tuesday afternoon near Nationals Park. Anwar was working as an Ubereats driver. We are devastated by his tragic news, and our hearts go out to Mohammed's family during this difficult time. An Uber spokeswoman said, "We're grateful the suspects have been arrested and thank the Metropolitan Police Department for their diligence in this investigation." The girls, 13 and 15, assaulted Anwar with a taser while carjacking him, which led to an accident in which he was fatally injured. The girls were charged with felony murder and armed carjacking. The younger girl is from the southeast section of D.C., the older from Fort Washington, Maryland. Anwar immigrated from Pakistan in 2014. He was a beloved husband, father, grandfather, uncle, and friend who always provided a smile when you needed one. He leaves behind a family, near and far, who cherish, love, and miss him dearly. Alright y'all, let's jump into it. So we got a big packed story to go over. I'm going to try and do my best to keep this reasonably short and also to really watch what I say, because as I've noticed with this case, it's wild. And the way people are responding to it and talking about it is even more wild. So, bear with me and let's jump into it. So, we had a man who lost his life. He came over to the country to have a better life. He was a hardworking man with a family, doing Uber Eats, hustling, grinding, minding his own business. And a 13 and 15-year-old girl tried to carjack him. First of all, they went up to the car and they had tasers. So, they were prepared to steal the car with some amount of aggression or violence. But honestly, I don't think they went there planning on killing him or assuming that what was gonna happen was gonna happen. I mean, you have a 13 and a 15-year-old girl. The weird thing about this is they're right on that age where they're kind of in between. Like, they're old enough to understand things, but they're also still young enough to where they're not fully developed, and where I don't think they had the proper guidance to understand the weight of decision making. So I've seen this whole story publicized and politicized very strangely, in my opinion, right? Literally, the majority of posts I have seen about this or comments all come down to the same few things. They try and find a way to make it race related. They try to find a way to where the left or the right is either wrong or incorrect one way or another. And most of the comments I'm seeing are extremely aggressive. Now, I'm going to break those down as quick as I can. Let's start with the comments being aggressive. Look, I totally understand the feeling people have after reading this. I had the same feeling. Saw the video. It's horrific. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. So don't misconstrue what I'm saying for anything other than that. It's extremely heartbreaking. But it also strikes me a little weird when something like this happens and you have hundreds of people who are commenting very malicious and aggressive comments. Because in my opinion, that's feeding into it, but also that's breeding an aggressive world, aggressive nation, an aggressive city, whatever. When you have something happen and everyone who responds is aggressive, they want the absolute worst for the people involved. They want to go do something to these people involved. I don't think that really helps the situation. Now, I'm not saying that they're not entitled to have these feelings. I mean, everyone's entitled to their feelings, and feelings are never incorrect. But you gotta think, when you publicize, when you're posting comments about just pure aggression. I'm not going to get into what the comments said because I don't want to feed into that. But essentially, you have people who are hoping the absolute worst on these girls, who are extremely aggressive, and who want to take justice into their own hands, who want their name to be so publicized that anyone can find who these girls are and where these girls are to make their own decisions about their own justice. That's not what needs to happen. I'm not excusing what they did, but that is absolutely not what needs to happen. We don't need people taking justice into their own hands. We need to let the law take care of this one. But there's an issue with that as well, because as we know, 9 times out of 10, the law is corrupt. I'm going to say it, may get canceled for it, but whatever. We know the system is fucked. It's corrupt. One way or another, no matter who's involved, 9 times out of 10, you're getting fucked by a fucked up system. So we also need to fix the system. But that's a story for another day. The way this story is being talked about, like I said, is being politicized. Left this, right that. Dude, fuck all of them. Focus on who's involved. Try and find the root of the problem. And let's try and prevent this from happening again. Again, I'm not excusing what happened. My heart goes out to the whole entire family who was involved in this. And for the little girls, I really don't know how to feel. I call them little girls. I mean, they're 13, 15. They're not little babies, but they're not grown-ass women. I mean, 13 to 15, that's typically an age where kids will try and steal a car. That's a pretty common thing to happen around that age. But I don't think these girls understand consequences or the gravity of situations or the responsibility that comes into making decisions. I don't think in their head it even played through once that they could have possibly killed this man or murdered this man or that he could have died. I don't even think they thought about that. So, is that their fault? Of course. Is it the parents' fault? I'll never fault the parents outright like that. Now, the craziest part to me that really makes me not sure how to feel about this whole thing, because again, when I read it, I see young children who, I'm not saying they're excused from punishment or anything like that, but they need to be rehabilitated mentally, for sure, because they didn't show any remorse. The girl was more concerned. She walked by this man as he was taking his last breaths to go get her phone out of the car. That to me blows my mind. But what it also kind of shows me is that, like, she must have, even though she was young, she must have been numb to these type of things. Probably because that's all we see online. All we see is a breeding ground of aggression. Right? I mean, I could be wrong, but that's all I see. I completely see aggression everywhere. It's publicized, and then it's repeated. Because again, you have this happen, and then you have the comments, and you have people feeding into that. So it's just a huge cycle. And I just don't think people understand the snowball effect shit like this can have. One way or another. You sit there, you're constantly aggressive, people feed off that energy, and now people around you are aggressive. Right? These girls were stupid fucking girls. That's it. They had something wrong with them. Whether it was their upbringing, whatever it was, these girls are fucking dumb. And they murdered this man for no good reason. But how do we go forward? I've talked about what I learned from it. When I have kids, speak to your children about the real world. You have to be real with your children. I understand you don't want to expose them to all the horrible shit, but you have to be real with them. So we need to teach our children the gravity of situations, the responsibility of decision making, but also, I mean, sending these girls to prison for life or for 20, 30 years. Again, I'm not excusing what they did, but it's a genuine question of how many people do we see go to prison and come back rehabilitated? In my opinion, it's a small percentage. It's a small percentage of people who are able to go to prison and rehabilitate themselves, because prisons do not rehabilitate. It's the individual and the environment, right? So most people don't get rehabilitated, so we need to fix that as well. But I don't know, it's a weird one for me. To be honest, I really hesitated about making this video because there's so many talking points that can be misconstrued or taken the wrong way, and I just really honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to jump into it. It's a heartbreaking story and there's a lot that goes into it, but I also have a feeling that people can easily take this the wrong way. So again, as I wrap this up, let me just clarify. I absolutely do not disregard what these children did at all. My heart goes out to Muhammad and his family. He was a hardworking man trying to better his life. He absolutely did not deserve this. I don't think people need to feed into the aggression, though. I don't think people need to be in the comment section of these original posts speaking so violently, because that's when you constantly speak violence or aggression, that's what's going to come out, right? Like, what you put out there is what you get back. You manifest that. So I think people need to take a step back, and before they are so aggressive, just try and be a little bit more logical. I understand it's heartbreaking, but aggression is what usually makes people make poor decisions, right or wrong. So I just think people need to take a step back before they get too aggressive, especially the people who are not involved at all. I think they just need to learn from it and try to prevent themselves or their children from doing such things. But you don't need to attack an attacker, right? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So at what point do we, as non-criminals, just chill out and let the system or the people in charge do what they do, and us not feed into it and not repeat the cycle? Does that make sense, or am I tripping? And also, again, I just don't think we need to turn this into something it's not. I don't think this has anything to do with race, politics, anything like that. You have two unintelligent, unaware, uninformed girls who made poor decisions, and it turned out the worst case scenario possible. And now they're going to have to face their consequences. Now, it's a weird, because the 15-year-old can be charged as an adult, the 13-year-old cannot be charged as an adult. So there's a lot to develop still, and I just honestly think before we dive in head first and fully make up our minds and fully put all this energy into one way or another, we should let the people in charge do what they do, and then maybe respond more to the outcome of that. Again, because I don't know the answers. I don't think they're right, and I do think they need punishment, but I also think that they need help. But that doesn't excuse what happens. We can't just help every single person and chalk it up to something went wrong. Like, people deserve punishments, but I am not the judge, the jury, or the executioner, so I do not need to be trying to make the decisions. We just need to learn from it, right? So again, I'm sorry this was a little bit long one. I know I kind of jumped back and forth all over the place. It's just such a huge, mind-blowing case that's going on right now, and I see so much people from all different directions. So this one's kind of all over the place. I think you guys probably got the gist of how I feel, of what I was saying. Feel free to leave any comments in the comment section if you agree, if you disagree, anything along those lines. I love to hear your guys' opinions, and maybe if I'm ignorant in a way of thinking, you guys can help me open my mind as I'm trying to do with you. But hey, I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you turn the notification bell on so you can see it first. If you want to support the channel, make sure you click the links in the description below. As always, it's White Boy Rick. Till next time.